It's Windham. And we're back for Video Wednesdays. It's time again to do an IMDb's top 250 best films of all time. How many have you seen? The quiz is down below. Holy cow, it has been crazy since the last time I uploaded one of these. And so it's just been really hard to sit down and do a movie. Today's film is Usual Suspects. Let me just say, this 1995 thriller puts a lot of today's psychological thrillers, it puts it to shame by basically throwing you for a loop until the end. I was watching it with a friend and he and I both predicted in the end what would happen, but we didn't have that prediction until like the last 10 minutes of the film randomly, and we both texted each other and we said, I think I know what's gonna happen, and then it did. So to be able to predict that, but not to be able to predict it until that close to the ending, I think says a lot. Now the director for this was Bryan Singer, and something that I have found that he has said about this film is he kind of said you can't imagine people for what they are, but you have to imagine them for what you can turn them into as far as casting goes. And he ended up meeting Kevin Spacey, who is basically a protagonist of this film. He met Kevin Spacey at Sundance Film Festival after seeing some of his work, and they kind of talked, and Spacey said, I want to be a part of whatever project you guys do next. And yeah, Singer met McQuarrie, who was the screenwriter of this, and they kind of dreamt up a vision of this together. Singer, he had the idea of a bunch of criminals lined up, and imagine that they met at a lineup, that they were all brought in and they just so happened to meet each other at a lineup, and instead of using a bunch of random guys, they all happen to be legendary criminals. And so he turned to McQuarrie and said, why would they be there? What's the story as to how they would get there? And they figured it out. And he actually found the title of Usual Suspects from a newspaper article, which I thought was pretty cool. And McQuarrie, he wrote a bunch of different scripts. I think he wrote like over 8 or 9 scripts until one was chosen. And then they had to pitch it. And actually pitching it, they had a hard time getting anybody to pick up this film because it was non-linear. And so a lot of people had a hard time following it, which I think is, like, honestly, I mean, the non-linear quality, it added to it, but I did find that it was kind of confusing. A lot of the time I was trying to figure out what line we were in, and until they explained that it was non-linear, which they do eventually when they say present day. They do a shift and they say present day. They kind of let you know that it's non-linear, and then it's easier to put everything into place, but that kind of was a little hard to pinpoint at first. So as far as plot goes, it opens up with a big boat that you kind of see on fire, and you see kind of a confrontation go down. You're kind of introduced to some characters, and you see, yeah, the boat's on fire, you see a lot of people die, and you find out that there are only 2 survivors in this fire, and it's this man who isn't injured at all, and he's a small-time con artist. His name is Verbal, but a lot of times he's known as the Cripple because he has cerebral palsy, but it only affected one part of his body. And then there's also a man that only speaks in Hungarian. He's there, and he doesn't really speak English, and he's in the hospital basically for the entire film, is this Hungarian man. And all that they kind of know, that you see police investigating it, and all that the police know is that there was a bunch of cocaine on this boat. It had a lot to do with cocaine, and that it also had to do with a character called Keaton. And this character called Keaton supposedly died. And the thing is Keaton was a corrupt police officer that then decided to turn his life around just within the last few years. So it's really these police officers going, okay, why is this formerly bad police officer gone clean randomly mixed up with this cocaine shipment? And then the Hungarian in the hospital mentions the name Sose, and all the cops kind of look at him, and they're all looking at each other because that's a big crime name. So then they have 3 things that they're curious about: Sose, the cocaine, and Keaton. and why they're all wrapped up together on this boat. And the only clue that they have to this is this con artist, this cripple. And so basically the entire movie is them interviewing him. I really enjoyed it. Kevin Spacey played the cripple, and he was just phenomenal. I mean, in reality, you had a lot of really good people that played the rest of the cast. You have Gabriel Byrne as Keaton. You have Del Toro as Fenster. You have Pollack as Hockney. And all of those people kind of make up your core group of the criminals that go and become your usual suspects. And I would say, overall, what sold me on this film, because at the end of it, I really enjoyed it. What kind of sold me on this film was, first of all, cinematography. The way that they chose to convey certain things in a very intense way without completely making it as intense as it could be. Them doing that kind of, I guess, strengthened the intensity in a way. It was intense because they didn't show everything. They did a really clever way of doing a lot of it, and a lot of it took you by surprise. And even though you knew it was happening, some stuff still kind of amazed you in a way, and that is something that I really enjoyed. And I wish that we had more of that in today's psychological thrillers. Is I don't just want a big plot at the end, but I want to be surprised the entire time. I want to be surprised throughout the entire film, and I want to be excited throughout the entire film. And I'm kind of a sucker for when you get a bunch of con artists and criminals and bad people together and you make a team of them and kind of smush them together, and then you say, hey, do this thing. I'm a really big fan of that. And even though in this they weren't successful, so the fact that they tried and they made a team made it worth it for me. The plot was the plot twist was really good. Kevin Spacey, his performance was phenomenal, because I didn't think that anything was weird until the very end. You kind of think that he's pathetic, you kind of think that he isn't worth anything, and in the end he turns around and he's this amazingly strong person, and he has a lot of really good quotes, a lot of stuff that you can use for a bunch of stuff. The overall cinematography, plot, and Spacey sold me on it. I do feel like I have to see it again, just because Spacey's performance was so strong, and you're so trying to understand the plot that you really couldn't even necessarily enjoy other people's performances, even though the other members of this gang, they did a really good job, and they had awesome characters that were pretty developed, and they were all very distinct, and they were all very neat. And I think to do them justice, I'm gonna have to rewatch this film. But yeah, I would say overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Because I would watch it again. I would recommend it to other people. And it also gave me a new appreciation for Singer as a director, and it gave me appreciation for Kevin Spacey as an actor. And I already appreciated him, but it's cool to go back and realize, yeah, the appreciation isn't something that he recently deserved, it's something that goes way back. So yeah, I think that's everything that I need to talk about. Everything's down below that you need. Follow me on social media. I put a video out of my updates, and we'll see you guys either in a live feed or next week when I release another video. Anyway, bye guys.